Hey everyone, welcome back to the Jarrod podcast, episode 4. We have had a little bit of a delay here. My plan was to hopefully get a guest on for episode 4, but COVID put a little bit of a dent into that as I was trying to do a meet-up with people, and for our guests was to do it face-to-face rather than just relying on Zoom and the internet. The audio types of meetings you can do, but the way it's going, it looks like we might have to do some over Zoom because obviously COVID has been extended for a while with the effects of that in Melbourne and Victoria, so it looks like we're going to have to do some Zooms with our guests rather than just relying on face-to-face, which is a pain, but just got to move on and do the best we can. So, episode 4. Not gonna lie, I have had, besides that with the guests and trying to organise face-to-face meetings before COVID sort of came back again, I think creatively I was stumped a little bit. I think COVID to an extent did dampen the creative flow that I had going, but you know, it's a little bit different and challenging to express and get messages out there and produce content on a podcast when my goal initially was to try and do it with guests and interesting people with good stories and lessons and learnings and wins and all these different things that can be discussed with someone else. All of a sudden it was sort of just myself, which is totally fine, but it just sort of a bit of a course correction happened there, and the content right now is manages myself talking about the lessons and learnings I've had, the wins I've experienced, and some fun times that we've sort of come across, in my own dealings. So episode 4, tracking progress, but are you happy? Now, this particular topic is something, when I thought about it and I was preparing for this podcast, I realised that it's actually, I've had so many conversations around this with clients, past clients, even future clients with EPM, and also members of the gym that I've been associated with, different gyms, people online. And when I was thinking of this topic thinking of the content for this topic, it became pretty quickly apparent to me that it was a very common thing that I've been going over and talking about with people as well. So as I started to think of the content for it, it became quite easy and quite clear. So hopefully out of this, it raises your own awareness. Perhaps you could, suggest the things that I talk about here to people in your own life, because I know that, like I said, I've had this conversation with people so often, but I think it's just easily overlooked when you can't sort of step back and assess or give your own self feedback, when it's very hard when you're in your own head all the time, as we are as humans. Now, in terms of tracking progress, I'm huge with tracking progress. Now, this can be with anything. It can be your fitness and training. It could be with your business career. It could be just general health. It could be any sort of progress that you have avenues in your life that you're aiming towards or you're trying to improve. Tracking things has a range of benefits, and I track a lot of things in my own life. So tracking itself is not bad. It's awesome. It, of course, has downfalls like anything else, but it's easy to start tracking the wrong things or chasing the wrong things with training, with anything like that you're trying to attain, and it can sometimes be like the devil for you, and it's just not an ideal way to do things. So what I mean by this, I've got 2 case studies here. I call them case studies, just 2 examples that I have come across that were probably the most, not the most recent, but the most sort of memorable that I've experienced. And pretty much it can just sort of outline and show you what I'm talking about. So when I said about tracking and how it can be also a bad thing, a lot of the time, I'll use fitness as the main topic here, because it's quite easy to break down and explain. It's very easy to begin tracking the wrong things for the wrong reasons to align with things that you don't even really care about or things you're actually trying to achieve yourself. Now, as an example, the first example was there's a member of the gym that I attend, and him and I just say hello here and there most mornings when I see him, and it's usually just a very surface level conversation. It's just, hey, how you going? And that's usually about it, to be honest. There isn't much more to it. And a while back, pre-COVID, he came to me and we started talking. It was probably the most in-depth conversation we've had this entire time I've sort of seen him. And he knew that I was a trainer and a coach, and he asked what did I think of his arms. He's like, do you think my arms are big enough? And my first thought was, because I'm a bit more aware of this situation and I've got awareness around it now, my first sort of thought was, well, how long is a piece of string? Like, I can't really answer that for you because it's such a subjective question that everyone will have a different answer to that, depending on your goals and your views on what the question is. So when he asked me that, I said, well, it depends, man. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Like, are you trying to get a more muscular physique? Are you trying to look more aesthetic? Or are you trying to get a bit more proportioned where your arms or your upper body is in more proportion to your legs, your lower body, whatever it could be? And when I said it, like like I was flattered that he asked me what I thought, but I feel like his main goal or his main driver is sort of like just doing it to see how, or just trying to build his arms according to what everyone else thinks. So when these sort of questions come about, if people ask me these sort of things, which they do come about quite often, I'll firstly say, so what are your goals moving forward? Like, do you want to compete as a bodybuilder? Are you trying to get as strong as possible? Are you just training for fitness and health? Are you trying to prevent, do you have any existing health issues? Or what are your driving terms? Like, what's your driving force? And a lot of the time, when they ask me, I'll say, well, look, in my opinion, like, they look pretty good, your arms. Like, you're in proportion. There's no real obvious symmetry issues, which again, symmetry is something that most people won't completely attain because not all of our muscles are the same, and we all have different reasons for this with genetics and injuries and imbalances and so forth. But I usually finish the conversation with just a simple, how do you like your arms, to this particular individual, this guy? And they're usually stumped when I ask that. And I'll say, hey, do you like your arms? And believe it or not, a lot of the time, the answer is, yeah, you know what, I actually do. And when they say it, it sounds like it's coming from a real genuine place. Like they haven't actually just stopped to think about, you know what, I actually do like my arms. I've put a lot of work into them. I've trained hard, etc., etc. So when I ask that, they often are a little bit stumped, like this person in particular. And like when I asked him, and he said, yeah, I actually do like my arms. So I think the answer he was looking for was me to like just fully critique him, give him like all these new all these new tips to do when he probably didn't really need them. He was doing the right thing anyway. But I think it was just that self-doubt kicking in, and he was just doubting himself, and he wasn't appreciating like the work he'd already done. And so what I'm getting here is, what I'm trying to get here with this is that often we're doing, like, our goals and our training programs and our thoughts and what we actually think we want aren't even, they're not even congruent with what we actually want. So just often ask yourself, like, am I actually happy doing this approach, this type of training, this eating style, hanging around these sort of people? Am I actually happy doing this stuff? Is it bringing me joy, fulfillment, happiness, doing the stuff that I'm doing? Because more times than not, if you're actually, like, legitimately not enjoying it, you probably won't be doing it. And I think it's easy to get caught up in thinking that you are on the right path, but when really it's more just to try and suit someone else's ideals or standards, and you just sort of get caught up in the race of it all. So that's the first example, and again, like, that just sort of shows that it's a very subjective thing. So, like, with physique sports like bodybuilding and those sort of things, it's all subjective. Of course, there's criteria from the judges and the mainstream audience and followers and stuff, and there is criteria to follow to try and score high or whatever it might be. But he could have asked 5 different people that day, and he probably got 5 different answers. And I think you just got to ask yourself and get really honest with yourself if you like that body part, or if you like that approach that you're doing, and then go from there to navigate and get as a genuine response as possible moving forward. So the second example I'm going to use here with tracking progress, are you happy, is I had a lady come to me, and her main goal was to improve her body composition, so get a bit leaner and improve her muscle tone, and that's pretty much just the basic overview of it. Now, when I was asking her some questions, I was getting feedback, I was putting her through the criteria that we do when people come on board with our coaching. She outlined that there were some certain exercises that aggravated her current injuries, and one of them was a barbell bench press. Now, again, going back to, like, what do you want to do? Like, what is your main goal here? So the person's goal, this lady's goal, was to improve composition. Now, she was doing barbell bench press, but she also added in the barbell bench press was aggravating her shoulder, which was then aggravating all of her training as a whole, because it was impeding her ability to train. So when it comes to improving composition with your body, if your ability to apply intensity, apply progressive overload, get a little bit stronger, improve your muscle mass, apply intensity to help, burn calories and burn body fat, if that's impeded, you're going to have a rough time trying to improve your body. So on a base level, it doesn't make much sense to keep exercises in your program if it's completely bringing you to a training halt, which is dramatically impeding your progress. So when I asked this person, I said, so the bench press is affecting your shoulder. I said, just quickly before I help you out anymore, I said, do you really love the bench press? Like, is that one of your favorite exercises or whatever? And she's like, no, not really. Like, I don't really like it, to be honest. Or it's not one of my favorites at all. And then I'm like, cool, so why are you still doing it? Because it's affecting your current goals. And she was like, well, I see a lot of other people doing it, and it's a really good exercise, and it's great for building shoulder and chest strength. And I'm like, cool. I go, but it's affecting your progress for what you're trying to achieve. Those other things that you've mentioned are great for someone who is trying to improve their shoulder strength, their chest strength, it's a good upper body compound movement. I go, that's great for them. That's not your goals. So you're trying to track a parameter and include a parameter in your training that's not even congruent with your outcome you're trying to get. And I go, there are a lot of other exercises that can be similar to a bench press with a barbell. However, there's a better chance that it won't aggravate your shoulder. Now, I'm not saying just like get rid of the barbell bench press completely, scrap it, don't ever use it again. But if there is something that is stopping you from progressing and you're finding that time is going on, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 4, 5 months and months later, if that thing is still in your way, get rid of it, drop it. If it's not serving you, move on to something else that's of a similar exercise. Get the injury sorted out by our therapists like physio, chiro, osteo, myo. Perhaps it's a better coach or a better trainer that's required. And again, I'm not saying you have to drop the exercise for the rest of your life, but in the short term, if it's not serving you, let it go. You're only hanging on to it because you are seeing these other people do it, where you're assuming that that's what you have to do for your goals as well. But straight off the bat, if it's affecting your progress for the goal you're trying to chase, it has to go. Secondly, there's more than one way to do it as well. You are not the people that you're looking up to all the time. You're not the same people at the gym that you go to. You're not the same as so-and-so. Everyone is so individual with this, and it all depends on the exercise and it depends on the person. One size doesn't fit all, and if it's not serving you any longer, you gotta just let it go. Move on. So this type of thinking can be very hard for people to grasp, I guess, because when I speak to these people in these instances where it's like this, it's like these thoughts have been with them for a very long time. It just didn't occur overnight. And as we know, having those sort of thoughts for a long time can be quite, it's not like it's a quick fix or a click of a thumb where it just goes. So they're kind of almost conditioned thoughts, especially if the environment that you've been a part of really condones that sort of type of, again, this instance, training or a coaching aspect. And yeah, it can be difficult. So I'm not trying to blab on here too much. I want to try and get straight to the point for you all. When you start planning your goals and you start looking at your progress and what you can decide to track, make sure that the path you're on is one that you're really enjoying. You can find genuine happiness in it, and you're not just doing it because so-and-so is doing it, or because I was told or I read that Arnold Schwarzenegger used to do it in the 1970s. Like, no, that's not you. You are not him. It's not how it works. Two different people, two different bodies completely, and like another million other factors that separate the both of you. So it has to be congruent with you, your body, the goals you're on, and just what you enjoy doing naturally. If you're trying to get leaner and improve your composition, but someone keeps pushing to you that you must do low intensity cardio every day and you must do your 12,000 steps, and that's boring to you, don't fucking do it. Go and do something else as a substitute. You don't have to do it. There are more and other ways around it. You might do a 30-minute low intensity circuit, or you might do a 20-minute high intensity circuit or something like that. Who knows? But there's so many more ways to do it. Yes, there are ideals, but at the end of the day, you have to actually enjoy the process as well, because like I always talk about, we're always thinking long game here. If you can't do it for the long game, I would scrap it. Otherwise, you're going to fall into the cycle of like a yo-yo, up, down, and simply put, you're going to be then faced with the challenges of going up and down, which is also very tiring, and no one likes to start things and have to stop and start, like yo-yo dieting, yo-yo training, and all those sorts of things as well. Alright, so that is it for today, guys. Quite a short, sharp one. We're going to leave it there. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or hit me up on Instagram, and I often answer a lot of DMs there as well. So that's all for the day. Short and sharp, and I will see you next time for episode 5.